There has been a conviction in the Posie Parker sourcing case. It's official. There is, it wasn't discharged without conviction. It was a conviction. And let's have a look at the One News report from tonight.
A woman who threw tomato juice over controversial anti-trans activist Posie Parker has failed to get convictions for assault thrown out. And a district court judge today said the woman's interview with One News immediately after the assault was a contributing factor in sentencing. Simon Mersett was in.
Oh, of course it was. As was probably the article she did with Stuff, where she had bottles of tomato juice behind her, as with all the posts she did holding up tomato juice bottles and stuff. It was like, you know, if you really want to get discharged without conviction, attrition, or I should say contrition, has to be a part of it. And it would appear that, you know, the person in question just reveled off it for at least a while. But anyway, we'll let them explain what actually happened.
Court.
It was a big, loud rally where Britain's Posie Parker said she wanted to address women's rights. But to thousands at Auckland's Albert Park, she was an enemy of transgender people. One who believed that was Eli Rubashkyn. She poured a litre of tomato juice over Parker before being bundled away by security. Event organiser Tanya Sturt was also covered in juice, and she and Parker complained of assault. At the time, Rubashkyn admitted what she'd done to One News.
I dropped a liter of juice on her. Why? Because she's spreading hate.
Eli Rubashkyn pleaded guilty, but wanted a discharge without conviction, arguing she'd committed a political act. But Tanya Sturt said she later received online abuse, and the incident itself shocked her.
Thinking first the liquid was acid, then being worried it was bodily fluid, feeling disgusted and violated.
The judge said it was to Eli Rubashkyn's credit that she'd done humanitarian work in favour of transgender rights. But she said the action at Albert Park was premeditated, and although she'd shown remorse, she'd never apologised. The judge made particular mention of the interview with One News.
Your immediate reaction was to speak to One News to promote your message that trans people should be safe in New Zealand.
The judge did enter convictions on both counts of assault, but decided not to impose a fine. Are you satisfied with that?
Only God judges, and I just want God to judge me.
The judge accepted Eli Rubashkyn had also suffered threats and was unlikely to reoffend. Simon Mersett, One News.
I think only God judges, and of course the judges as well, who just made a judgment. I don't think this is a surprise to many of you who have been with us for a long time that result is not a surprise. We were very clear, I think, on the events that happened, obviously whilst supporting and being on the side of the protesters who were shouting down Posie Parker, that there were some events like the punch to the face of the elderly woman, and that were either clear assaults, like the punch was, or technically assaults and were probably going to equal some punishment, and that's what's happened today. So no surprise here, Chewy. And that doesn't mean that I'm like going, yeah, it's a good result. I'm just saying when you do these things that by definition are an assault, then you're likely going to get found guilty of an assault.
I would have liked to seen a discharge without conviction there. Yeah, it's disappointing.
Well, I just don't think, I mean, like, and maybe Eliana didn't realize this, but she did herself no favors. As I said, I haven't got it with me, but I can remember there's the article in stuff.co.nz where I think she's sitting on her bed and she's got all these tomato juices sitting beside her. It's just like, it was certainly more than a protest, and there was some reveling happening. And obviously the judge has gone, well, you look pretty happy at the time to commit this technical offense. And that's what happened. I mean, I'm not saying I disagree with you, but I just think that's the situation.
Yeah. Again, just to reiterate what you said. Yeah, I'm not surprised that that's the answer. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah. That's fair. I'm just putting in the note into Google. There we go. There's one from 23rd. Is that the one? Yeah, I mean, here's an article and stuff from not exactly the one I was thinking of, I think, from March last year. In fact, this is probably, I'll just leave it on silent. If you have a look in here, you might find, yeah, see, that kind of thing. I mean, you know, if you had a lawyer at the time, not the smartest thing to do if you didn't want a conviction, to be in the news celebrating the action. I'm not actually judging her and calling her that, like you're saying, but I just think I'm saying if it was like a friend or a child or whatever of mine, I'd be like, dude, just lay low now until the actual thing happens. Don't revel in what you've been doing. That's all I'm saying. Purely for, I mean, like, revel in what you were doing because you're proud of it, and I think she was proud of it, and I think she should be proud of it. Cool, but don't revel it and rub it in people's faces. That's not going to help you when you get to your court case, which is coming. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I see that interview and those comments, and again, taking that moment to talk about your issue. I can see why she took the angle that it is a political act, because I think it is.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
I think it is also a reaction of quite extreme incitement, considering the horrible things that Posie Parker has said.
Yeah.
That trans people are all abusers or rapists in hiding, or even reveling in suicides in the trans community. She is a horrible, hateful person.
Yeah.
And you're weighing that up with pouring juice on someone.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, there's an interesting point to add to this, and I actually want to read out what Josie Posie said, because Ellie is not media savvy. We're a community that celebrates our activists. I'm not surprised you got caught up in it. They're also a misapprehension of our legal precedents. Look, because I was just thinking as you were talking, Joey, we don't actually know where those images came from, these images here, because I've been on the other side of this, right? I worked for a radio station, and we were at a big event, and the big event, they wanted us, the TV news wanted us to all kind of join arms and scream down the camera and like what we were doing. And I went, yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to look like an absolute idiot on your 6 o'clock news. And I said to my colleagues, you guys want to do it, you can. So I guess what I'm saying is, I wonder if, I wouldn't be surprised if a film crew kind of turned up with these kinds of things. I said, why don't you show us these, or why don't you not, or whatever. I'm not actually blaming them, but I think what I'm agreeing with Josie is the media savviness may not be there. And that's not a criticism, that's just a reality. Because the media will do what they want to do to get the photo that they want to get. And in that instance, who knows where those three things came from, whether they were brought along or whether they were, in Ellie's cupboard. Don't know. I think as well, though, the conviction is probably not going to hurt her too much. I mean, we've got, technically it's a conviction. Would it impact things like travel and stuff? I don't know, but a conviction, no fine, no real penalty, no times behind bar, obviously. So there's probably a scale of things, and discharge without conviction is here, and just above it is conviction, but no consequences immediately would be probably just a bit above that, I'm thinking. Yeah. All right. Is there anything else you want to?
I guess it. Well, I guess this sort of links into what we were talking about yesterday about hate speech and that sort of thing. Is that can be one of those issues, right? Stay positive in the chat said something. Oh, I've lost the comment now. Offensive words don't justify a violent reaction. Well, that's very easy to say. But I think we know in reality that's not how it works. You can say some absolutely hateful shit, and all you are banking on is someone's not going to take 3 steps and thump you for it. And I think when you look at what Parker Posie has said about the trans community, it is hateful. And hiding behind free speech and going, well, I'm just voicing an opinion. I'm just voicing an opinion. Some people in our community don't deserve to exist.
Yeah.
Some people in our communities are horrible predators. We've seen that language used throughout history, and sometimes if it's not counted early enough, it gets well out of hand.
Yeah.
And I think these people know quite often that if they don't do anything, they can say whatever they want until they push someone too far, and then they're the bad guys.
Yeah. What about this from Sarah? I guess it's what you call getting to the news source. Just repeat again the sentence you said, because you said something about, you used the sentence from the chat about words violence. What exactly? Just reword that for me, because I thought something as you said it.
Offensive words don't justify a violent reaction.
So I think everyone agrees with that in principle. The difference is when those offensive words are aimed at you. It's easy for us to say offensive words don't justify a violent reaction when it's the other, like when it's someone else reacting to offensive words. Like I don't disagree actually in theory with what that's being said, but when those offensive words are aimed at you, or they're aimed at a person in your life who's vulnerable, or your community, or you, so you have a vested interest in protecting where those words are being thrown, you can get a different reaction. Like I used to use this example sometimes, and I used to get told that I was victim blaming. I'll say it anyway. You know, what we should be able to do is very different from what we are able to do. We should be able to go up to someone and use every offensive word in the world and not, you know, and not ever get punched in the face. We should be able to do that. But I think we all know we aren't able to do that. I used to use the example, I should be able to get $1,000 in each of my hands and go down whatever the most dangerous quote unquote street is in your neighborhood, flashing them above my head and yelling out, I can't fight back, I've got $1,000 in each hand. I should be able to do that and stay safe. But we all know that it's a bad idea and that something may happen to me for doing that, that might not be fair. There's lots of shoulds which should happen in the world. Offensive words don't justify a reaction. I agree. Offensive words should never justify a violent reaction. But in the world we live in, sometimes they do. Now, that's not to defend the action, right? That's not to defend the person taking my $1,000 like it was your fault, you're going down there. But it's this reality we live in. Sometimes the shoulds lose out to the reality of what the world is, Chewy.
Yeah. I mean, I saw something happen last week in the middle of Dunedin here. There was, you know, someone, I don't want to say begging, because they were selling various trinkets and that sort of thing. And they had a sign out saying that they had some form of cancer or heart problems or some medical issue as well. And someone walked up to them and just said, I hope that's true. And that person got knocked on their ass. Not by the person that had the sign out, but by a passerby that heard them. This is the thing. Why did that person feel the need to cross the road and go up to a vulnerable person and say, I hope that's true, I hope you have cancer? You know, I would say the same thing for the people that used to be able to stand outside abortion clinics and call women murderers for having to make a horrible decision.
Yeah.
I would say the same thing for you know, as I mentioned, people celebrating the suicide of trans people. These are horrible, hateful things. You can fucking think them if you want, but keep them up here. You know,
you talk about the suicide of trans people. One of the ones that comes into mind, which is even more mainstream, that is like, what about bombing of buildings in Gaza? People celebrating that. You know, you can even, it seems to be an easier one for people to grab a hold of as well.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. In the, like, I remember my early days of being in an anti-fascist group and like talking about Nazis and racists and stuff like that. And it's like, there was an acknowledgement at that point that everybody has, you know, what goes on in someone's head is their fucking business, right?
Yeah.
You can be racist. You can think the most horrible things about whatever race you want, or about gay people, about women, about trans people, all of that sort of thing. But the line for us is when you organized. Like, if you want to put together a group of like-minded people, that's when we would get involved. If you put those thoughts online in a way that we could find you, that's where we would get involved. So that's the whole thing. If you want to sit there and go free speech, and we've said this on the show many times as well, free speech is a legal thing. The government can't come and get you. It doesn't mean that your speech is free of consequences.
Also, this government may come and get you right into your home for your free speech. Just remember that.
Oh, yeah, very true. Very true.